All right, so here's the story, boys. A guy creeped into my DMs telling me the religious doctrine. He came into my DMs and telling me about the religious doctrine of light tanks, how he worships light tanks every day. And of course, when he said this to me, I was very, very skeptical. Light tanks? What the hell are you talking about? Light tanks suck. So let's talk about light tanks for a second. So first of all, light tanks have the same suppression as armored cars. So let's just put 1 battalion of infantry. The suppression on this is 1.5. A single cavalry has a suppression of 2. Okay? Are you with me? Armored cars have a suppression of 2.5. So you would calculate from this little experiment, the best suppression on a budget is cavalry. And if you can afford it, armored cars at 2.5. Head explosion, right? But there is a underdog that you're not even aware of, the light tank. The light tank has a suppression of 2.5. It has the same suppression as an armored car. Suppression reduces the amount of equipment and manpower needed to keep down resistance in a set area. But get this, there's also another factor about light tanks. Light tanks also have more hardness than armored cars. If you're not aware, hardness determines how much damage is inflicted on a division whilst suppressing. So a division that is very soft will sustain higher manpower and equipment losses than a division that is very hard. The armored car is 65 and the light tank is 80, meaning the light tank is actually better at resisting resistance as a anti-partisan division than armored cars. Now this is a big brain moment. I personally think this number of 2.5 is going to get nerfed to the ground when PDEX spot this, okay? So this is information that's probably going to get nerfed, so be aware of this. The question is, though, does it matter for a suppression division, right? Does it actually matter? So you specifically, with the tank designer, can design a light tank that is horrendously cheap. So we'll go for riveted armor. We'll go for a machine gun, which is dirty cheap. We can go for a wheeled suspension, which makes the production cost cheaper. But that reduces hardness, so we don't want to do that. No, that's bad. That's bad. So we want to go for the bogey suspension. Anyway, take off the engine, take off the armor. We go for a diesel suspension for the reliability, and that's the cheapest we can possibly make it. Suppress me. So 2.4 production cost compared to the armored car, which is a production cost of 4. So it's almost half price. Almost half price. Let's just destroy all of the light tanks we've got. Make a load of these crappy light tanks. Loads of them. Then we will switch out this division to a single armored car, a single light tank. This will consume 4,500 light tanks, and we're adding the light tanks in now and switching them out, and we've reached peak light tank right about now. We go maxed out. Let's just look at the losses for a second, because there might be some hidden mechanic that we're not aware of causing us to have more losses in light tanks. Just for a heads up, this is example. I have all of the world, basically. Just to give you perspective. The game's lagging. The game just crashed. The game was like, oh, no, can't handle that. No, can't do it. Literally breaks the game. Yeah. We'll do it with a smaller example. That example is too much because I was controlling half the world. I don't understand why light tanks would have so much suppression, though. I don't really understand that. It doesn't seem like why they would buff that stat. I don't understand. Maybe it is by design. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I could be totally wrong. I accept that. So we'll annex Poland just for some suppression. Then we'll make our light tank, the one we plan to. All right, here we go. So you can see we're taking a few losses of light tanks here. So 13,000, 14,000 for the suppression. As you can see the suppression going up, they need more garrisons to control the area. This is what I mean by suppression is a set number that reduces resistance depending on how high the resistance is. It's really hard to get your head around, but when you understand it, it's like, oh, I get it now. The only thing that could be missing here is there could be something in the game hard-coded that causes armored cars to get less casualties. That's the only possible thing. It's really difficult in this scenario to make a like-for-like comparison. If you wanted to go super hardcore, what we could do is go for a heavy with a light turret with a machine gun, riveted, diesel. Suppress, big boy. ALE, change that to 1 heavy. Will it increase armor? Will it make it better? No, because the only two stats that matter, for suppression are suppression and hardness. They're the only two that matter. And increasing armor does not increase hardness that I'm aware of. No, hardness still 95%. So 95% hardness on this division, meaning it should get absolutely no casualties. Feels like they're losing quite a lot per day. And that amount feels really high to me. All right, so here we are now in the famous heavy tank versus armored car race versus, in the left corner, we have France with the armored car and Poland on the right side with the heavy tank. Resistance is not equal, so I would imagine the casualties for France would be higher, but we'll find out anyway. On your marks, get set, off you go. I'll have to summarize up to a month, make it a fair test. Once again, this is the most unfair test in the world because the resistance in France is significantly lower right now than it is in Poland. So I would presume until the percentages equalize, it would not have a fair number, but I actually don't know. So if we keep this running, we should see after a long duration that the heavy tank should be taking less casualties than the armored car. So I guess the only reason we have to do is run this for like 1 year of game time, I guess. The ones that are in stock don't matter because they're all got the same hardness anyway. Doesn't matter. We're working with what we've got here, guys. And remember, suppression also varies based on victory points, based on local population as well. There's lots of variable factors. To be able to set this up as a perfect one-for-one fair test requires a lot of tweaking and fine-tuning. It's not as straightforward as you would think. I'm guessing that armored cars have higher suppression with higher models. Let's check that out. I actually don't know. I'm going to go with a no. No, no, no. Because they're not listed, that means the number isn't changing. So suppression is 2.5 and it doesn't go up. So no. That is a no, sunshine. Yeah, it's not the fairest of tests, but I think it does illustrate my point just from an observation. And it is doing exactly what I thought it would do. This is exactly what I thought would happen. Based on this crappy test, and I will go back on that, this is a very crappy test. It does appear that the heavy tank is better at taking less losses than the car. But then again, it wouldn't universally be the same anyway, because I said to you, certain states have higher, more resistance based on population, based on victory point. But it does look like, based on my little janky little test here, that it does look like heavies take significantly less losses. I'll say it again for anyone in the back that didn't hear me, because I'm seeing the same questions in my Twitch chat. The only two stats that matter as a part of a garrison are hardness and suppression. I'll say it again. No one heard me. Let me just make sure I get it. Hardness and suppression are the only two stats that matter for a garrison. Yeah, based on my little layman's test there, it appears that my theory is actually true. In a perfect world, though, you'd probably make the heavies because they've got 85% hardness, and then you'd put really crap equipment on it. And this would be your tank. 3.6 production cost, so it's still cheaper than an armored car, but they have a hardness of 85 compared to the hardness of the car, which is 65. So they will take, this division will take less casualties than this one. Super heavy for a garrison. Yeah, I guess you could if you wanted to. You could do, yeah. Super heavy garrison. It's 95% hardness, I think. So if we wanted to go super hardcore, we could make ourselves a dirty cheap diesel riveted bogie with a machine gun. A machine gun super heavy tank. Just think about that. With a light one-man turret. The production cost is horrendous. The hardness is 100%. Oh, does this mean it takes no damage? Oh, shit. What does this mean? Oh, my damn. All right, let's cheese this in, boys. Let's see what happens. So everything's going to be on the heavy tank. Change it to the super heavy tank. Reinforce completely. It's still taking losses. There's got to be like an upper limit. Yeah, there has to be an upper limit. Are you sure these units aren't just taking a fixed percentage of the division amount on losses as per time period? Good question. No idea. No idea, bruv. It does appear that the numbers are really freaking low, though. So what if we turn off garrison completely for a little while? Let the suppression get to unhealthy levels and then add on the heavy tanks again. I'm just curious to see how many losses we'll take. If my theory is correct, it should mean I'll take more losses, right? If my theory is correct, it should mean if the resistance is higher, I should take more losses with my garrison division. But maybe hardness affects the cap? I don't know. Civilian oversight, and let's go. 3 mouse, 5 mouse, 9 mouse. The hardest part of creating a fair test with this is because the suppression numbers keep going up and down all the time based on how much resistance I'm quelling. I can't actually see if this is a good production cost. You know what I mean? So let's just change to armored car for a little while. Once again, not a fair test, guys, just for demonstration purposes. And remember that 2.24 is the number. 2.24. Losses are very low. It just seemed that way. Wow. Okay. It looks like armored cars are doing something different. Armored cars are doing something different. We're at 2.5 production losses, weren't we? It feels like, to me, guys, we're hitting an overhead limit. And it feels like it's better to have cheap units as suppression than it is really expensive ones. So it leans more back to the original strategy with light tanks. So you guys can learn from this, because a lot of you guys go, well, I tried the 73 width and it worked for me. I get so many of these comments. Guys, listen, your personal anecdote is not scientific. If it worked for you and you were happy with it, go with that, okay? But you don't make concrete conclusions based on you just randomly dicking about in game with you. Your personal anecdotes mean fuck all. Fuck all. You think this video was good? Well, this one is the final form. Click it.